This is the Source MLS podcast with Mark, Jon and Rich.
There we go, music fading out, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Source MLS podcast with me, Rich and Mark. Hello, gents.
Hi guys, you alright?
Alright, Jon.
Join us here on Friday the 11th, just gone 10 minutes past 12, and we're going to roll straight into our highlight games that we're going to be covering this weekend. First of all, Rich, you're up with yours.
Yeah, New York City FC versus Toronto FC at the Yankee Stadium. It's live on Sky Sports 2. It's a 9 o'clock kickoff, our time, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So we're looking at a game between two very high profile teams in terms of personnel. Obviously we have Sebastian Giovinco playing for Toronto. He had a fine game last time out. I believe you covered that one, Jon.
Yeah.
You told me how impressed you were with Giovinco. We discussed on Monday's podcast I thought it was a really well taken penalty. He fizzed a great ball across the box, clumsy challenge from the Red Bull defender, and Giovinco slotted his penalty into the bottom left corner. I think he's going to be a danger man and one to watch out for on Sunday evening.
I was going to say, as you said, I covered the game, and I will give it for the first 70 or so minutes of the game. Gideon Barr and the rest of the New York defence had closed down Giovinco, and he had very little room to manoeuvre in. However, the minute he was given a tiny acre of space, boom, straight down the wing, he was off, and he sent in a whipped in cross which the New York defence couldn't deal with and led to the penalty, and of course, as you said, was fantastically well taken. He is one of those players that you cannot give any room at all or he will punish their back defence. However, New York City are improving, and moving, I was going to say, Mark, didn't you cover the New York City game last weekend?
Yes, I did, and the one thing I think I went into quite a lot of depth about was poor defending on both sides. So I think if New York City are to get anything from this game, they're going to have to improve a lot defensively. We've seen they can attack well, but I think defensively they've got to improve to get anything from this game.
I think you've got it's going to be a very, very good game. You've got Drew Moore and Giovinco named to the MLS Team of the Week, the official MLS Team of the Week this week, and you've also got Tommy McNamara in midfield of the Team of the Week. He scored a brilliant goal last week.
It was a sensational goal.
I still think it was like one of the best goals. It only got to the semi-final of the goal of the week, and I think Higuain's bicycle kick won it in the end.
I think the MLS agreed with us.
Yes, we agree with that.
For Columbus, but I think that. Are you alright, Mark? You're struggling this morning, aren't you, mate?
Yeah, I'm ill. I'm sorry. I apologise.
So anyway, Tommy McNamara's goal was class. But mixed Diskerud, he had a good game as well. He scored a cracking volley from Tommy McNamara's cross, and he also set up Shelton's first goal. So I think it's going to be a very entertaining game, chaps.
I was going to say last year this fixture was a 4-4 draw, including a Sebastian Giovinco hat-trick. Now, considering Toronto made it very clear they want to improve upon their defence with the acquisition of Clint Irwin, I believe it is, the new goalkeeper.
Yeah, the keeper.
Who kept a fantastic clean sheet in his first
Who was
game.
not our Team of the Week as well.
Yeah, we put him in, didn't we?
Our Team of the Week.
Couple of bits of injury news for you. Altidore is questionable
For
Toronto. He's not trained all week. The Toronto head coach told the press on Thursday afternoon that Altidore hasn't trained at all because of his hamstring. Frank Lampard, he didn't play last week. He's been suffering with his calf and a recurrence of a hamstring injury. He's also not played. Patrick Vieira, New York's head coach, told the media on Thursday afternoon as well that he won't be playing. He'll most likely not be playing, on Sunday. He's not trained at all outside of the team either. It's officially listed on the injury sheet as questionable, but I think if he's not trained all week and he's just doing gym work to try and shake off his hamstring injury, it's safe to say that he won't be playing. And I think that Vieira is going to stick with the 4-3-3 that he went for against Chicago, playing Pirlo in that deep line position with Disco doing the running next to him.
Considering this, though, the major designated players you just mentioned, though, neither had major roles in either Toronto or New York City's games in the opening weekend. So, considering that, what do you think from it? Because, of course, we're going to have to go on to your predicted score for this.
Yeah. Well,
what are you thinking?
With regards to what, Pirlo and Altidore?
Yeah, considering that...
I think Altidore, the sooner Altidore gets back fit and firing for Toronto, I think we'll start to see Toronto emerge as challengers for that Eastern Conference. But with regards to Pirlo, yeah, we spoke about this quite a bit in depth, didn't we, on Monday, chaps? Does he have it? We know he's got it, right? Does he have the ability though to? Does he have the legs ultimately?
That is the question that, of course, as you said, we went into.
That's the question. I think we'll only be able to get an answer to that once we're a few games through this season.
Once we're into about week 6, week 9.
The 4-3-3 with a deep line playmaker relies on the two central midfielders next to the defensive midfielder doing the running. Tommy McNamara plays on the. Did he play on the wing on Sunday?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So who played next to Pirlo and Discord in centre?
Discord, yeah.
And who else was it in the centre?
Shelton was
Shelton,
there.
that's right, yeah.
He was very, very good on the right wing, yeah.
So Shelton will play right centre mid, Discord will play left centre mid, and Pirlo will play next to him. So it's really important that New York, in what is a big game for them, the first game at Yankee Stadium this season, after not the disappointments of last season, but I guess sort of like the weight of expectation is going to be on them a lot more this on Sunday. It's important that they do not let the middle of the park get overrun by Toronto, because if they do, then I honestly can't see New York getting a result. But who knows? They might really be up for the challenge. Pirlo might come out to play, and he can control games. He's won Champions Leagues, he's won World Cups. I think Vieira is really going to need to tap into his experience to help Discord and Shelton get the best out of them.
Okay, considering this and that last week New York City was so free scoring with the goals and Toronto had such a solid defence against New York, who do you think is going to win this?
I think it's going to be a score draw, 1-1.
Score draw, 1-1?
Yeah.
What you say, Mark?
I'm going to go for 3-1 Toronto.
Um,
I'm going to have a brace from Giovinco, I think.
I'm honestly going to say 2-1 Toronto.
Oh.
None
of us are fancying New York with this one.
None of us fancy New York going straight into this one.
I don't know if it's not that I don't fancy New York. I think it's going to be one of them games where both sides sort of cancel each other out. I don't think that it's going to be I don't think either team's really going to dominate. Obviously, you two guys disagree, which is fair enough because you've got different opinions, obviously. But I think that looking at what Patrick Vieira said on Thursday in the media day, he said, "I think what is clear, what is important for us, is that going on the field and we are being determined to win the game." He said, "The way that I want to play is a risk, but I'm prepared to take that kind of risk because what is important for me is that we create more than we concede." So, is Vieira going to go all out and go attacking, like I said, with a risk that Toronto can counter, like we saw in the last 10 minutes on Sunday against the Red Bulls, where both their goals were scored in the last 10 minutes of the game? Toronto capitalised on a tired Red Bull team that had actually controlled 63% of possession and only had one shot on target all game. Red Bulls. Toronto, they're good on the counter. They don't like to have a lot of the ball, but when we do win the ball, they will punish you. So, lads, I think it's going to be a very good game, but I can't see either team really edging it out.
Right, so all three of us are back in Toronto for that game, though, with different scorelines. Second game that we've got this weekend is yours, Mark, I believe.
Yes, we've got Colorado up against LA Galaxy, and, well, I think this game, on paper at least, looks like a walkover for the Galaxy. I mean, given the performance last week against DC United, they've got a lot of big name players playing well at the minute. And Colorado have lost out 1-0 to the San Jose Earthquakes, and it could have been a lot more from what I saw of the game. So I can't see them getting much out of it, but as we know, Galaxy have been unpredictable in the past. The likes of Gerrard obviously not performing as well as he would have liked in games gone by, but with new signs Ashley Cole and Nigel de Jong, I think that could really stabilise the back four at least, and keep more clean sheets in the future, and especially up against the Colorado side who don't score many goals. So for me personally, I can't see it going any other way than the Galaxy win.
It was Rapid's biggest fault last year, is they just couldn't find the net enough. However, I'm just going to say, I believe LA Galaxy are without not Sebastian Giovinco, sorry, Giovanni Dos Santos. I believe
Yes, he's out. Yes, he got run out. Yeah.
Was it hamstring injuries being taken out?
Hamstring or a calf? I can't remember which one it is, but it's something like that. Yeah, basically he's out for this game.
He's out for this game, and apparently could be out. They don't know the severity of it. He could be out for another few weeks.
Yeah, he could be big loss, but if you remember, they were 1-0 down at half time, I think, and they took him off at half time.
Yeah, and
so taking him off might have done them good. So him, not saying he's not a key player for them, but taking him off might have done some good in that game anyway. So we don't know. McGee might be a big name player again for the Galaxy for this game, because he came on as a sub at half time and scored 2 very, very good goals. So
I think
either way.
I think in this game it's important for LA to keep a clean sheet.
Yes, definitely.
Because if they want to take the title away from Dallas in the Western Conference this season, they need to start reckoning clean sheets against teams like Colorado. They need to, in games like this, not concede like they did to DC. Meanwhile, Colorado, I think they're unlucky because San Jose Earthquakes, they did get a fair few shots in, but San Jose Earthquakes, the back four, held the line fantastically, along with the Earthquakes goalkeeper, whose name has just slipped my mind. If one of you could find that for me. They were unlucky not to get anything, but in the end, Earthquakes just sealed them out. I wouldn't say they parked the bus as much, because they still went forward quite a bit, but they just held the line and went, right, you're not going to go past us. And they couldn't break through it. And personally, out of Earthquakes and Galaxy, I think Galaxy's defence is better. So, I don't know if you agree with me on that one, Rich.
John Bush, is that his name?
John yes, Bush? I believe that was him.
Older chap, 39-year-old bloke.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He played a very good game. I don't know if you agree with me, though. Would either of you see Colorado getting anything out of this?
As I said earlier, I don't see them getting anything out of it. I don't know about you, Rich, but I don't see them getting anything.
Can LA... Right, so this is the question we're going to ask of a lot of teams this season, right? You've got the big names, right? Can these big names, are they capable of going away, right? It doesn't matter where you're playing in a hostile environment, you're playing at another ground. Can they use their experience to pull the players up with them and get the result? That is ultimately the question here. There's no doubt on my mind, like you said, Mark, that this game on paper should be won comprehensively by the LA Galaxy with the talent they've got. But can we see them go there and grind the result out? I'll be very surprised if this result ends any other way than a Galaxy win. You know? So yeah, again, this game is 12 AM Saturday night / Sunday morning, is it, Mark?
It's midnight,
yes.
Yeah, it'd be midnight for Greenwich Mean Time. I'm just
Saturday night,
7 o'clock.
Saturday night, Sunday morning time.
Yeah, 7 o'clock
Pacific time. That would be. I'm just trying to work that out in my head.
Yeah, Pacific, isn't it?
Sunday, 8 hours. Hold on, I'll try and get back to you on that one.
It's in Colorado, isn't it?
It'd be Central time.
Central time.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So we're looking at about 6
o'clock.
So
whilst I try and work what time that would be out, lads, what are your predictions for this game? First of all, you, Mark.
3-0 Galaxy.
Yeah, I was going to say 3-0 Galaxy as well.
3-0. I'm going to say 1-0 Galaxy. I'm going to say I think Rapids might start to come back into this one, but I might just tip it to Galaxy. Right.
So just before we move on, who do you think is going to get on the score sheet for the Galaxy then? Do you fancy McGee to get another goal?
I think he'll be buoyed by his efforts last weekend. Obviously, he got him the team of the week. Still don't think I'm over that chip.
Probably the player of the week as well,
I thought that went to Ignacio Piatti.
I would have gone. I would have gone with him. But it was a good shot for it.
But that just goes to show. I mean, last week, if we're talking about last week in general, was a fantastic opening week for MLS soccer. A record 36 goals in the opening 10 games. Players like Piatti, who you'd expect Jobber didn't play, but you've got, it goes to show that the strength and depth these teams have got, where players can step up to the mark and then deliver. So I think I think we're going to be in for another great weekend, to be honest.
As Rich said, quite a few of the so-called major names, the big name signings, Drogba, Lampard, they weren't playing that weekend. Yet I seem to remember seeing a stat, I think it was on ESPN, of the MLS was something like the 6th most watched league that weekend. Portland Columbus came 10th in the list of most watched games, and it was the number one game was the Univision, the Spanish TV game, which was Club America playing a team whose name escapes me.
But yeah,
I'll try.
Portland Columbus actually the 10th most watched game, which actually really surprised me. I know viewership was down by 33% on the opening day as it was last year.
I still think over the season it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger, especially considering the Citrus Bowl for Real Salt Lake versus Orlando. That pulled in 62,000 fans.
62,500 fans.
That is an amazing stat, considering that club's now only, a year and a
Yeah,
bit
a
old?
year old,
Don't
yeah.
forget, Kaka didn't play either.
Kaka didn't play.
Kaka
Nocerino didn't play.
Nocerino didn't play either.
The Derby legend Benny Failharbour, he didn't play either.
Yes.
And
How long has it took?
Not on record.
okay, and of course we haven't mentioned the Derby. I will say, I think all the 62,000 fans there who were of Orlando following must have loved it when they got that 94th minute equaliser.
Oh, that was incredible.
Which was sad for Real Salt Lake, which swiftly moves us on to our final game we're going to be covering this weekend, which is mine. Real Salt Lake are going to be hosting Seattle Sounders at the Rio Tinto Stadium.
And unfortunately, you don't have anybody to call upon to help you out, do you, John?
No, I don't.
It's
but
all on his own this week.
See, no one's covering this one, but we'd like to cover as many teams as we can here on the podcast, so I'll give it my best shot. But anyway, whilst I finished watching my game of the last weekend, I looked over for this game because I hadn't seen it as a major one. I just thought I thought it was going to be a 0-0 draw most likely. However, it turned into one hell of a game with João Plata for Real Salt Lake pulling off a fantastic first half performance to send Salt Lake up 2-0. However, they were pegged back to 2-2. I believe the goals were the 92nd minute and the 94th.
Yeah, two real
at the death goals. And it really seemed to not. You could see at the end of the game, the Salt Lake players, it just knocked the hell out of them. The look on their face was as if they lost a cup final. They'd so comfortably taken the lead.
That can have a very bad effect on players. That can knock the stuffing out of teams. You think the game is sealed up. With football fans, we know what that feels like. The players, for those players, it must take some getting over.
It's a bit like losing a penalty shootout. It's very hard to take, but some teams it can inspire them to go on and say, like, right, this game's gone, go forward, forget that. We played well for the most part, move on.
However,
that's why I'm saying that. Yeah, sorry, John. That's why I'm saying that it's going to be a very interesting game to cover from John's point of view, because how will Salt Lake recover and bounce back from it?
Yeah, as Rich said, it's how they're going to come back into it. However, on the other side, you've also got Seattle who are going to try and bounce back, because bear in mind, first home fixture was a tough one against Sporting Kansas City, two of the heavier teams in the Western Conference. However, at home at the CenturyLink Stadium, you would have banked on Seattle to take it. However, they lost 1-0 because Kansas City just shut them out of the game. They weren't getting anywhere. And bear in mind, Sounders haven't won away at Real Salt Lake, I think now in 4 games against them at the Rio Tinto Stadium. Since 2011, according to my stats, if my stats are correct. They haven't won. And bear in mind, Seattle are going to be another team, since the loss over Femi Martins, who still want to prove they're a major front-runner for the playoffs. So
you don't like to sort of like carry on with a whole big name topic, but you have a player like Clint Dempsey in there, don't you?
Yeah.
Who's been to Europa League finals? He's been to European Cup finals with Fulham. He's played copious amounts of Premier League games. You've got to look at him, haven't you?
Yeah.
And he's got to drag those players up with him. He's got to drag those players up to perform at his level, which we all know that he's very capable of playing brilliant football.
In this game, it's going to be who's going to bounce back. Because at least Real Salt Lake came out of their game with a point, despite the fact they really should have taken all 3. The question is, who's going to bounce back better? It's going to be a tough one. I'm going to edge it to Seattle. I think Seattle are going to beat their duck at losing, so to speak, the Rio Tinto in Utah. I'm going to edge them to win this. I'm going to say 1-0 to Sounders. What are you thinking, lads? I'm going to go with you, Rich, first. What are you thinking?
Well, I can see this going either two ways. There's two sort of like storylines coming from this. Salt Lake bounce back and hammer Seattle, or Seattle sort of like take it to a downbeat Salt Lake team. I'm going to go for the latter. Seattle win 1-0.
1-0 to Seattle as well. What are you saying, Mark? Your final on this one?
I'm going to have to go against you too. I think it's going to be a draw. I think both teams are going to cancel each other out. I'm going to go 1-1.
Fair enough. 1-1. Those are the 3 games we are covering this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Just to recap, we've got Rich on New York City, hosting Toronto.
Late night, Saturday night.
We've got Mark. Your game is, remind me.
Colorado Rapids versus LA Galaxy.
And of course, you got me with Real Salt Lake versus Seattle Sounders, 9 p.m. Saturday, 12th of March. That is Greenwich Mean Time. Of course, we'll put up on the blog the times in Eastern Standard, Central and Pacific time for you.
There will be match previews of all these games as well. So.
Exactly, those will be going up in the next few days. Also, whilst we're getting on this point, we may as well once again say please follow our blog, give us a like, give us a little read, listen to the podcast, helps all the time, as well as the Twitter handle, which Mark, I believe, is Source_MLS, correct?
That is correct, and our website is sourcemls.co.uk.
We did have a lot of fan interaction in terms of mentions and retweets and likes last Sunday night. I noticed that when I was covering Portland versus Columbus, we had an awful lot of fan interaction, which is absolutely brilliant. We've had a tweet this morning, haven't we, chaps, from a gentleman in Ireland who runs a lot of fantasy.
Yes, we've had a tweet MLS. From our friends over at MLS Cheat, which do a fantastic job on Fantasy MLS. Which, if you haven't joined our league, which we'll give a mention to in a bit, you should also go check out his. He tweeted us saying, Akam could be the man for Chicago Fire tonight. What do you think on this, lads? Chicago Fire, I believe, who are they up against?
Orlando tonight, 12
Orlando
o'clock.
tonight is the first game, which for us over on this side of the Atlantic is going to be 12 o'clock.
I would have loved to have watched that, but obviously duty calls and I have an early start of work in the morning, so I will be catching up with Orlando.
I'm going to try and cover this game because I'm sadly unemployed at the moment, and
that's a talk for another matter, John.
That's a talk for another matter. I'm going to try and cover this game. What do you think on what our good friend says that sorry, I apologise for that very bad pronunciation. Akam could be the man for Chicago tonight. Bear in mind, Chicago scored 3 very nice goals at the weekend against New York, but however did not get anything from it. Meanwhile, Orlando left it very late to salvage anything against Real Salt Lake. What are you thinking?
I'm going to fire this one to Mark because he watched Akam last week. Mark?
Me personally, yes, I think he is a very, very good player, but I think they rely a lot on his pace, and he can take on defenders, he can run past them, but I think the main thing that he is good at latching onto long balls, heat forward. And if Orlando hold their very high back four, then that could cause some problems, I think, because obviously he can run in behind, they'll heap long balls forward, and that might cause problems for the defence. But I think if Chicago are to get anything from this game, he has got to fire. Because Igboanike, I think he scored a very good goal at the weekend.
Did you just say if Chicago are going to get anything, they're going to fight? They've got to fire.
Yeah, they've got to fire.
They've got to fire. No pun intended.
The very bad pun, I apologise.
Yeah,
the pun was not intended,
It took
ladies.
me a minute just to sort of register exactly what was said by Mark. But Mark makes a few very excellent and very valid points there. I said to you on Monday, didn't I, Mark, off air before we started, I thought it was all very hit and hope from Chicago. They were firing balls down that left-hand flank. Who was playing left-back for New York? Do you know?
I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember which side he was.
What was his name? But
very professional here at Source MLS Studios.
Well, you know, it's,
hang on. I'll quickly get it up.
We're not completely match fit either, yet, are we?
No.
So yeah, they were firing long balls down towards Akam, and a lot of the time he won the foot race, and that's what commentator said on Sky. It was a foot race most of the time, but Orlando's defence will obviously have studied the film from the first game. They know what they're going to be up against, but does Akam have the quality to sort of elude a Orlando defence, which will know that it's going to be all about pace tonight? Obviously, we're going to find out, but it's going to be a very interesting battle, I think, which is why it makes me even more gutted that I can't watch the game.
Right, score predictions, John.
Going for Orlando City, Chicago Fire. I'm going to go 0-0 draw. I think these two are going to cancel each other out.
Oh, a 0-0 draw.
0-0 draw.
Rich, I think we know which way you're going to go, but let's just clarify it.
I think Orlando are going to win.
What shock, horror.
Well, you know, so Florida teams, lads, Florida teams.
Just before John reveals his score, we've got to take note, and he did ask me off air, what shirt are you wearing? Or jersey, should I say?
I kind of begged you to mention it. I've got my Miami Dolphins.
Yes.
Hashtag stronger together. Cameron Waite, number 91 jersey.
We are not worthy of the jersey.
No.
Right, sorry
That's the wrong sport. Get out.
I
This is football and soccer.
Yeah, right, sorry to interrupt, but Rich, but go ahead with your score prediction.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-1 to Orlando.
2-1. I thought it would be a bigger gap.
Will Kaka play tonight or not?
No, he's injured again.
No,
still
still
injured.
injured.
Oh, of course he is, because he's out of my fantasy team.
He's out of my fantasy team, which we'll move on to later on. For me personally, I'm gonna go 2-2. I think again. Orlando will I think they'll have problems defensively, but I still think they'll get some goals.
Before I go do a roundup of all the other fixtures and we do our predictions on them, the left back you were looking for that game was Matt Arrieta was the left back for New York.
Yeah, he did get run ragged by Akam.
Right.
That's the one. That is the one.
Okay, going through the fixtures this weekend for you, ladies and gentlemen. First up, on Saturday, we have New England versus DC United at 10 o'clock, followed by Montreal Impact versus New York Red Bulls at 10, and Real Salt Lake at Seattle at 10, which I am covering myself. Then on Sunday, we've got Colorado versus LA, our other covered game by Mark. That is at midnight. Columbus Crew versus Philadelphia, 3 minutes past midnight. Houston Dynamo versus FC Dallas in the Texan Derby is 1:30 a.m. Sporting Kansas City versus Vancouver Whitecaps is at 1:30 a.m. as well. New York City versus Toronto FC, which is our final covered game on Sunday. That is with Rich. That is at 10, And San Jose versus Portland Timbers is at 11. Bear in mind those terms are in Greenwich Mean Time. We will, of course, put them out on the blog in your respected time zones.
I think you were very gutted, weren't you, John? But obviously, duty calls for us on Monday morning.
Yes, because in case you don't know, me, Mark and Rich both attend a similar course, and we all have an assessment due in first thing on a Monday, which we all must be present for, because the original game I was going to cover this weekend was Houston Dynamo versus FC Dallas, the Texan Derby, which I've been wanting to cover for a while, but sadly I need to be up and sprightly for Monday morning, which is a real pain because it's one of all the games this weekend, it's probably the one I'd highlight the most after Salt Lake Seattle, personally.
Shall we do a shout out to our lecturer, or shall we leave it?
No,
shall we leave him anonymous? Shall he or her?
No,
anonymous?
they're not getting a shout out for this. They're getting me up on a Monday. No, okay. So
right, back to the first game, New England versus DC United. What do you think score predictions, guys, for this?
New England versus DC. Well, I think DC again, they took a bit of a hammering from Galaxy, despite the fact they started off very well.
They've started very well first half. They did play very well.
And what did the Revs do last week?
New England pulled off a very fine 3-3 draw away to Houston Dynamo.
They've got goals in them, New England.
Oh well, they've got goals in it. Both defenses obviously aren't very.
I'm gonna put a 1-1 draw here. I think DC are gonna fire back, but New England have got too much.
I'm gonna go for a 2-2 draw. I think both defences obviously aren't very shaky to begin with this season.
We've got 2 draws here. What are you saying, Mark?
I might go the other way. I'm gonna go 0-0 draw.
0-0
draw because I think teams might cancel each other out. We
are all backing both New England and DC to cancel each other out. Our final game on Saturday is Montreal Impact versus New York Red Bulls. What are you saying, lads?
Montreal.
What score are you going with here?
Drogba's still out.
He's still out, but their striker, whose name eludes me, Ajuro. He got a goal at the weekend, so I still fancy him to get another goal today. At the weekend, sorry. I'm going to go for 2-1 Montreal.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 Montreal as well, Mark.
I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to say 1-0 New York Red Bulls. I think they're going to bounce back after their loss to Toronto.
Oh dear. Right, next one. Columbus versus Philadelphia is the other game, which we are doing this weekend. Scores for that one, guys?
Columbus to bounce back from last week's loss to Portland. 2-0 Columbus.
Yeah, I can't really see Union getting a win out of this, lads.
No.
It's going to have to be a Columbus win. Yeah, 2-1. Sorry, 2-0. 2-0 clean sheet.
To say we haven't done it yet, I'm going to completely agree with you. I'm going to go 2-0 as well. So I think Kamara will get a goal.
Two Higuain bicycle kicks.
No, I think Kamara will get a goal.
Just saying, if Kamara scores a goal and Higuain gets another bicycle kick, I'll buy you two both a beer, because they're going to win, but I doubt that's going to happen.
I want 2 or 3 beers for that.
Bicycle kick, man.
Okay.
Last cricket's boss.
Next one, moving on, is the Texan Derby. Houston Dynamo versus Dallas.
We'll save your score for last because I know you like this. So we'll give you some time to think.
Bear in mind, just going to say, Houston Dynamo have not won the Texan Derby in the last 3 seasons.
I'm going to go 3-1 Dallas.
3-1 Dallas. What are you saying, Rich?
Right, I'm going to go for, Dallas win, mate. Dallas to edge it in the big Texas Derby.
What score are you going for?
I'm going to go for a 2-0 away win.
2-0. Right, John, you've had a little bit of extra time to think about
Yeah.
this. We know your personal ties towards Houston Dynamo. What do you think? Even though Dallas on paper are a better side, what do you think?
I'm going to edge it to Dallas, 2-1 Dallas, I think, going into this game. However, they do not have Castillo. I believe he's now out for this
But they
game.
do have Diaz.
They do have Diaz.
Who's a quality box-to-box midfield player.
I think it's just going to be too much for Dynamo. I'm going to say
Yeah.
2-1 Dallas.
Right.
Next game is Sporting Kansas City versus Vancouver Whitecaps. Who are we going with, lads?
Vancouver.
Vancouver.
Really? I'm going to go for a Sporting KC win.
Ooh.
Right, Rich, what
We
are you
have-
saying for your score?
They're going to keep a clean sheet. They're going to win 2-0.
2-0 to Kansas City. And what are you saying?
I'm 2-0 Vancouver.
2-0 Vancouver.
Oh.
I'm going to go with Rich. I'm going to say 1-0 Kansas City.
I mean, did they get a keeper and a defender in the team of the week, Kansas?
I believe they did. Didn't they also get 2 players in our team of the week? No, they got one.
They got one, yes.
They got one. They got defender, I seem to remember.
Yes, whose name eludes me again, apologies.
Okay.
Yes, I've got let me just find it out, because...
Whilst we wait for that, we'll move on to the final game of the weekend that we are not covering. San Jose versus Portland Timbers out on the Pacific Coast. What are you thinking, gentlemen? Rich?
San Jose versus Portland. Well, I'm going to go for Portland. The MLS Cup champions aren't going to roll over to San Jose, I don't think, on Sunday evening. I'm going to go for a comprehensive 3-0 victory over San Jose.
Personally, I think I watched the highlights from... Actually, no, I watched the entire game thinking of it. San Jose game a few days ago, and I was very impressed with their performance. And Timbers, as you mentioned in your review of the game, looked occasionally shaky. I think they may get some for this. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Mark, have you got a score for this, and have you also remembered our team of the week from last week?
Yes, I've got the team of the week here, chaps.
Who was the Kansas City player that we forgot?
I think it was Coelho.
Coelho is correct.
Coelho.
Coelho.
Coelho scored a very good goal. Back
Right.
to this.
You've got the final one, San Jose Portland Timbers.
San Jose impressed me at the weekend, but Portland are a personal favourite team of mine. I think I'm going to go for 2-1 Portland. I think Valeri and Addy are going to get goals.
I think, they both scored last week.
Yeah, I think they both score again this week.
Valeri was absolutely class last week, lads. He was unbelievable. Obviously, you both know because you've seen the highlights and stuff. But I think that, like I said in that Rats report, John mentioned that they did occasionally look shaky. I'm not going to lie. They did look. It wasn't a comprehensive or convincing win by any stretch of imagination.
It was a big game. There was a lot of emotion riding on it, though.
It's a massive cliche. Yeah, exactly. There's a big cliche in football that they're the type of games that champions win, right?
Is it? It's too early to say that.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But to edge that game in the manner that they did goes to show that they sort of have the ability to grind out these victories. It 1-1, 80th minute, and then Addy scores, and then Higuain hits the post straight after. Any other team, and that would probably have gone in, right? You know.
Okay, we've got 2 more things to cover on the podcast. First of all, is the fantasy football, which, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't joined, it's not too late. You can still bring it round. We've got time. If you want to join, please go to fantasy.mls.com, and once you've created your team, which please we strongly advise you do, you want to go to private leagues, and then you want the access code 598-479. Please join the league. The more the merrier. Take on ourselves, me, Rich and Mark. And speaking of Mark, ladies and gentlemen, he hasn't had a good starting week. Can we get the fantasy league up? If you notice, he is currently rock bottom of our league.
Why do you have to
with
do this to
35
me?
points. The reason we're going to do it, because we need to bring you around. You need to represent. Because at the moment, I'm the only one of us free to be outside the bottom
You're
4.
6th.
7th.
7th, sorry.
Have you ever heard of a parable called The Hare and the Tortoise, John?
Yes, I know. However, Mark, as you said earlier, you need to make your transfers, and so we're going to do them live on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
You've got a treat today.
And to those who are watching on Periscope, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, when we are doing our podcast,
you can see it on screen here.
We put it live on Periscope, so if you're awake at this time, if you're on the other side of the Atlantic, or if it's middle of the day over here in wonderful Rule Britannia, please watch our podcast. So, Mark, read us through your team and tell us where you've gone wrong.
Well, I think my problem that I've done is I picked injured players. Just looking at my team now, I've got 3 red exclamation marks all over my team. One, admittedly, is on the bench, but the main part of my defence is Perenel, who was a very key part of Red Bulls last season, is injured, and Kaká, who is obviously the main man at Orlando, is injured. And obviously I've got Jack Harrison as well on the bench, who I thought could be a rising star this season so far, is still injured. But yes, I made a bit of a boo-boo where I put a player who scored at the weekend on the bench, a Euro for Montreal. That probably is a mistake. So, guys, before we make transfers, sort my team out. So I've got to take Perenel out, yes?
Right, take Perenel out. Okay, bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, just because you can't see this currently, unless you are on Periscope.
We will describe it as best we can for you.
His bench is currently Siertz for FC Dallas as his backup goalkeeper, Ridgewell in defence, Portland Timbers, Harrison is injured for New York City, Clark for Houston Dynamo, and his final one is a Euro for Montreal Impact. So first of all, I'm going to do the obvious one. Put in Ridgewell for Perneri, seeing as you are backing Timbers this weekend.
Right, so, Mark, just any fantasy player will know it's important to look at the matchups. A bit of fantasy sort of guidance. Look at your players, and you've got Bradley Wright-Phillips captaining your team against Montreal.
Yes, that is definitely going to change. I'm going to captain Addy.
Captain Addy instead, yeah.
Yeah, captain Addy. But
and you're going to play a Juro?
I'm putting a Juro. Who are Vancouver playing? Sorry, it is Kansas City. Ooh. Who are Red Bulls playing?
And you backed Vancouver for this, remember?
Yes, I did. Did Mane start at the weekend?
Hang on, I'll check for you.
Just check. This is a crucial part of my team here. My forward line. As
we previously said, of course, our friend over, someone who you should probably be reading a bit more on so you can do a little better, Mark, MLS Cheat over on Twitter. Give him a check out. As I was saying, you can always join our league. We want as many people to join in as possible. It's hell of fun. And as you can say, you can take on our team. See if you can do a little better than Mark and myself.
Not very hard to beat me.
Not very hard at the moment. Only, come on, Mark, though. You're going to pull this round.
Right.
The question is, though, if you put a Jura in, you are going up against one of your defenders and one of your strikers straight out of the bat.
Yes. But Juro scored at the weekend.
Though, are you backing him to score against Red Bulls?
Yes. I'm riding on him, so I'm doing it. I'm taking... I'm going to take... Just have a look. Did Mane start at the weekend?
Have
a look. This is a key part. If he starts, I'm putting him in.
Let's quickly check for him.
Just check the teams.
I think that you could probably do with not letting us know your fantasy team, Mark.
Mm. Well, he can't really trouble me. He's too far behind.
Yeah, having said that,
you're far behind.
You're lagging behind, so we're not that.
You're one position ahead of me, Rich.
See, ladies and gentlemen, whilst everyone
competitiveness,
the competitiveness between the team is extremely fierce.
We're only in week 1, and this is already firing up. No pun intended with Chicago Fire again.
Oh yes, again I have to say, I wrote a draft for my Texas Derby
Was it a
preview.
super draft?
No, that pun's terrible. Ow. No, I wrote way too many Texan two-step puns in there. I have to apologise. It's a good thing I'm no longer covering that one. Anyway, so have you decided who you're taking out yet?
No, because you haven't told me whether he started on the weekend.
No, because you've got to take a leap of faith.
I'm taking a leap of faith. Right, I'm putting him in.
Right.
I've done it, guys.
So you're playing 2 Red Bull guys against 1 Montreal guy in your team?
Yes. Or could I transfer him out, Duval?
Despite the fact you backed Vancouver to win?
Yes. But I've got, first thing, at the minute, Kaká is in my midfield. So I've got to take him out. Because obviously he's not going to play.
Okay, whilst...
Clark for the Dynamo is going to come in.
Okay, whilst
right, we've done that.
Whilst Mark carries on with his team, me and Rich have got something we want to talk about, a little humorous story that we saw.
Okay.
Of course, whilst Mark carries on, he'll keep you up to date. Chad Okosinko, who, if you remember, was a NFL player who retired back, I believe it was in 2013, who previously had a trial sport in Kansas City, has said in an ESPN interview that if Sporting Kansas City gave him a chance, gave him a trial, he could easily get straight back into the team. What do you think on this, Rich? Because I found this a rather humorous story.
He has always been the type of person who, if you follow his Twitter, followed him throughout his career when he played for the Bengals, played for came on trial for the Dolphins, etc. He's always been the sort of person who likes to exaggerate, likes to romance a little bit. He likes to, as long as everybody's talking about him, that really to him is all that matters.
Yeah.
So he's one of those people who all he wants is him to be like the top trend on Twitter or the latest soundbite or something. Knowing my luck, he'll probably hear this and come and find me to ask me what.
If you could join the podcast, that would be.
Oh,
if you
that-
come and join us
I'd
in
love
Derby.
that.
Chano
interview.
Chosinko, Miami native, Dolphins fan, please come on this podcast so we can ask about your MLS ambition.
Chad Okosinko Johnson, please.
That's a call out.
We've given it a call out.
That's
yes.
a call out.
Ladies and
Chad, I am calling you out.
If you want to do a phone in interview,
Shout out.
we'll happily give you
We've
a call.
got ISDN in here.
So
yeah.
yeah, we've got the link up. But so you saying it's a bit of a joke? However, he did have a trial with them. That's the thing. He played over 45 minutes for them.
And from the film that he's got of him playing football, he looks like he could do a decent job as a football player.
Yeah, but
I'm not suggesting for 1 minute he could play in the MLS. He's just having a laugh, isn't he?
At the age of 38.
like Usain Bolt reckons he could play for Man United. Like, it's not going to happen, is it?
Oh, wow. Okay, have you going back to Mark? I've seen it. You look on his face of deep concentration.
Yes.
And
Yes,
confusion as well.
For those who can't obviously see, I'm deeply concentrated. But one thing I have noticed,
Who?
which you gave me a little bit of stick for on the last podcast,
I did.
may I direct your attention to the forwards on the fancy website, and whose name do I see second on the list?
Platter.
Mr. Platter.
What was it you said to me immediately after I said you go on our forward line? Midfielder.
No, you said he was a midfielder.
No, I said it was a forward.
Well, hang on. We need to check this because I'm pretty sure you said he was the midfielder.
As always, we welcome any fan interaction. If you
Yes.
don't think
Ladies
that
and
Platter
gentlemen.
is a midfielder, let us know. If you think it's a forward, please let us know.
I
What is he?
swear we had this debate. I swear I said he was the forward.
Or shall we compromise and say he's a number 10?
Oh, no. Ladies and gentlemen, people who are listening to the podcast, we are going to settle this once and for all. Next week, we are going to make sure, which bear in mind we need to mention, next week there will be no Monday podcast, sadly. We are unable to do it. As I've said, me, Mark and Rich are sadly in assignments on that Monday, so there will be no podcast. However, of course, we will return on the Friday. We'll probably have a doubly long podcast to cover everything that we've missed. At which point we will decide this debate of ours, of which I'm sure I said Platter was the forward.
I think FIFA holds autonomy on this. Someone go on FIFA, find out if it's like a forward or like
EA FIFA declares all, apparently.
Actually, no, I'll have a look.
Right, back to the matter at hand. I have been
Okay.
in deep concentration for the last few minutes. I've decided I'm taking Kaká out.
You're taking Kaká out. Do you want
This-
my suggestion who you should put
Well,
straight in?
I've narrowed it down to two players: Piatti for Montreal, or Valeri for Portland Timbers.
May I add a third to your intellectual quagmire?
Go
Like
on, then.
FIFA says,
Actually, no, let me add
Go
two.
on.
to-
Go on, then.
FIFA says he's a striker, ST. So
Akam for Chicago Fire,
Okay.
and second of all, Diaz for Dallas, seeing as you said Dallas were going to win.
Yes, I did say Dallas were going to win. I hope that's not the Houston Dynamo fan inside of you going a little crazy, John.
Owen Coyle fanboy.
Yes, John's chomping at the bit here. But yes, you have made good out of this. I'm doing the points that you made earlier. Is look at the matchups, and if I went for Piatti, that would put him up against the current two defenders I have in my team for Red Bulls. Valeri going up against San Jose Earthquakes. I don't have any San Jose Earthquake players in my team, so that would make sense to put Valeri in. But I'm going to go Valeri.
He's going to go Valeri, ladies and
And
gentlemen.
Valeri's in. That's one transfer. Right.
As we said, please join our fantasy league. More the merrier, of course. And anyway, any fan interaction, we love, ladies and gentlemen, to call in, tweet us, Facebook us. Anything you don't think we're covering, missing out your team, please tell us, and we certainly will cover them for you.
Right.
I don't believe there is anything more to say this week, is
I
there,
think
gentlemen?
we've just about covered everything, I reckon, chaps.
I will resume finishing my team. We'll get back to you.
We will put a tweet out when he's got it done, ladies and gentlemen. We will get it round.
At Mark Wakefield 95 will tweet out his lineup. Stay tuned for any social media updates. There'll be plenty of content going up there this weekend. There'll be match reviews on Monday. There'll be match previews today and tomorrow.
We'll keep you covered all the way through the week. As Rich rightly said, we'll have the previews and reviews of the games afterwards.
There'll be live coverage everywhere this weekend at SourceMLS for your home of MLS coverage.
We'll return on Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Source MLS podcast with myself, Rich and Mark.